Good morning. I'm Katie Dutcher from Flourish and Bloom in Monterey Bay Meditation Studio. So today's meditation is sitting with grief. And someone mentioned to me recently that I have not done a meditation on grief, though some of the meditations have dealt with all different emotions. And grief is grief is a tricky one, right? If you're experiencing grief right now, you probably know what I mean. It's it's so painful, so difficult to bear, whether it's grief of the loss of a person that is loved, of a relationship, of of a job, of a pet. There's no real comparing grief. Um, there's simply this feeling of loss and of um, often resistance to that loss, that it feels like something was kind of ripped away, and we didn't want it, we didn't choose it. um, Grief can also take so many forms. People talk about stages of grief, which maybe is true or maybe not, but I do know that it like rides alongside of so many other emotions, like anger, like guilt, like um, anxiety. All of these things can kind of go together with grief, and it can be complicated. On top of the fact that often it can feel like no one maybe understands or wants to hear about it. It's a rare friend or person who can really be with you in your grief. Um, so so for me, this is a pertinent thing to think about right now. I'm coming up on 4 years of since losing my dad. I kind of thought I might cry during this, but I hoped that I wouldn't. But here we are. And it's hard. I it's hard. And one of the best kind of pieces of advice that I got when I was in therapy was, and right after that, was to let the grief keep moving. That what is not helpful is to kind of bottle it up, to hold it inside. It sort of gets clogged or it gets frozen, and that affects us. It can affect us in really negative ways over time. So to keep it moving, and the way I find to keep it moving is to let it out, let it be expressed, let it be felt. This doesn't mean all the time in every moment of every day, although at the beginning, yeah, maybe. Um, but it does mean kind of creating space to actually feel the grief fully, to let ourselves process, emote, whatever that looks like for us. And and so meditation is one space for this. So I offer this meditation today, and today might be the day that is a good day for you to try this out, or it might not. It does take courage anytime you sit with something that you would rather not only not sit with, but you would rather not experience it ever at all. And so it takes courage to just walk into that perhaps dark feeling place and sit there. And that's what I'm inviting today, or that's what I'm offering in this space. So go ahead and find a place to be. You might decide to get extra comfy today. For me, this couch it has corners in it. It kind of wraps around, and Sometimes, it's nice to meditate, not sitting up all prim and proper, but just cuddle into the corner of a couch with a blanket, really feeling surrounded or supported. So if there's something like that you'd like to set up, go ahead and do that. Finding yourself lying down or sitting. Letting yourself sink into this posture, this spot that you've chosen. As your breath moves through, letting the exhales just invite you to ease in. To let the shoulders drop or release downward. To soften the muscles of the face. Tuning into your breath. It might be helpful here to bring your hand to your belly, or a hand on the heart, or both. This can help to really connect to the body so that you can actually feel the movement of your body as the breath comes in and goes out. You might continue to keep your hands in that place, or if that feels at all uncomfortable, you can just relax into whatever position feels right. Letting yourself feel this rhythm of the breath and knowing that the breath is a source of support. It's literally sustaining life by bringing in oxygen. And in addition to that, its rhythm. It can be soothing, it can be steadying. The rhythm can change, getting slower or faster, deeper or more shallow. But but it is generally an even rhythm. And by connecting in with the breath, we can get a sense of groundedness because the breath is happening in this body. So when we connect to the breath, we connect with the body. And the breath, each breath is happening in its own moment. It's happening right now. So when we connect to the breath, we connect with this very moment. We're present. So as we continue this meditation, recalling that the breath is a source of support, and that at any time you can dip back to just this sensing of the breath. While this is an invitation to be with emotion, just knowing that there's no need to force. If it feels like too much at any time, you can simply withdraw for a moment and come back to the breath. Finding steadiness here. And so I invite you now to open to perhaps some door that keeps being shut. Maybe a sense of this loss has come up from time to time, and we quickly turn away because it's not the right moment. There's other people around, or we fear the experiencing of this emotion. But right now, creating this space that really is just for this door to open. Whatever that means for you right now. Perhaps it's a recalling of this person, this relationship, this being. Open to whatever comes to mind. Perhaps what strikes right away is not grief, but love. Recalling the positive, the joy, the comfort that there was offered by this thing or being that was lost. Whatever arises here, love, sorrow, anger, fear, and more, allowing it, turning toward it. perhaps sensing how emotions seem to flow and shift, one leading into another, mixing, mingling together. Perhaps sensing into the body, sensing what these emotions feel like in the body. When we allow the emotions that previously were bottled up, there can be a sense of fullness or openness in the body, kind of a softening of release. Perhaps there's tightness or pressure. Sensing emotions, sensing physical sensations of the body. It may be, too, that nothing too vivid is coming right now. Perhaps it feels difficult to open the door, or perhaps this is sort of a trough in the wave of grief. Honestly, really being present to whatever is occurring. Even a sense of not much emotion or blankness or numbness. Being present, open simply to experiencing whatever is here. And again, in moments, and perhaps it feels overwhelming, one possibility is simply to notice overwhelm. Notice this emotion of overwhelm. It can feel like a wave crashing. And so one possibility is simply to sit in that wave. I believe it was Jennifer Wellwood who wrote, "When loss rips the doors off your heart, practice becomes simply bearing the truth." This practice of really not trying to fix or to dodge, but simply bearing this heaviness. Always to the possibility of returning to the breath. Perhaps taking a few slow, deep breaths. Letting these breaths remind you that you are right here, sitting in this posture, in this room. Perhaps moving back and forth between emotion and breath as needed. Another possibility too is amid these really painful emotions to offer compassion to yourself, kindness, gentleness, friendliness. If you like, you might put your hand on your heart or maybe just on the side of your cheek. Feeling the warmth of your hand. Recalling, reminding yourself of the courage it takes to walk through the valley of grief, and the courage it takes to do so with presence, with eyes open. There is courage here, even if, especially if, there is also fear or a feeling of absolute weakness, of being overcome. Even and especially within this, there is courage in simply showing up. recalling too the connection that you have, that each one of us has with each other. All of us at some point or another experience loss, experience grief. We may not talk about it, we may not show it, but we do experience it. Perhaps recalling too that even though it may not feel like it, or even though you may not even want it, it is true that you are more than your grief. Yes, you are a being who is experiencing grief and loss. Yes. And so much more. Gentleness, compassion for this being right here, experiencing pain. In a moment, I'll ring the bell to close this meditation. Perhaps just returning to your breath. Feeling the flow of the breath as it moves in and out of the body. Thank you for being here. And, this meditation maybe was a start. It maybe wasn't completely the whole amount of time that is needed, but it can give a sense of how to go about sitting with grief. Sitting really with all kinds of emotions. The practice is the same no matter the emotion of opening to it, allowing, offering compassion, because it's not easy. I'm going to post below this video a few different resources that can be helpful, things that I've found along the way. And I really am wishing you well, sending kind thoughts. I'll see you next week.